Imagine being locked in a sensory deprivation tank for, like, 500 years.
Oh, that sounds like a nightmare.
Right. But now imagine you also possess the raw elemental power of a god.
Yeah, that changes things a bit.
Exactly. I mean, would you come out of that darkness enlightened, or would you be deeply toxically vindictive?
I think we both know the answer to that.
Yeah. Today we are tearing down the dam. Welcome to another deep dive. We are unpacking the lore, the poetry, and honestly, the incredibly dense in-universe journals of the scholar Sean Shai to decode one of the most fascinating figures in this realm.
Tehom, the dragon of the river.
Yes. Home. We know she's a massive presence in the world, and we know the heroes are currently caught in her web. But our mission today isn't just to, recount what she does.
Right, because that's just scratching the surface.
Exactly. We are looking at the actual mechanics of her psychological decay. We'll contrast her isolation with the other great forces in this world, and then theorize what her unresolved fate means for the future of the continent.
And the stakes here are just immense, primarily because we're dealing with a being who blurs the line between a sentient creature and, well, a literal force of nature.
Yeah.
To really understand the threat she poses to Eleanor, Peter, and the rest of the company, we have to look past the surface of the ancient texts. We need to examine the actual physics of magic and isolation in this universe.
Which is so interesting because, okay, we all know the broad strokes of the poem of the water serpent.
The ancient era where Tahom kept the balance, yeah.
Exactly. And then the greed of Helena the Hunter driving her into the aquifers, and then that young boy, Kai, coaxing her back out.
Right.
But what really fascinates me isn't like the magic of the conch shell or the pearl that Kai brings. It's the mechanism of that interaction itself.
How so?
Well, the lore explicitly states Kai approached with profound humility. I mean, the pearl wasn't a magical artifact.
No, not at all.
It was the reduction of human ego that actually served as the key to unlock her connection to the water.
And that distinction, that's the bedrock of the entire magical system we're analyzing today.
Yeah.
Because in Shanche's notes, magic isn't just, chanting words out of a book. It is an energetic dialogue between the environment and the individual.
A dialogue. Yeah.
Exactly. So when Kai approached with humility, he actually lowered the energetic barrier between humanity and nature.
Wow.
And that allowed Tehom's natural flow to resume. So the rain returning, the drought breaking, those weren't arbitrary rewards. They were the literal physical manifestation of an unblocked energetic channel.
Okay, which brings a completely different context to the absolute nightmare the heroes face at the reservoir centuries later.
Oh, absolutely. It's a stark contrast.
It really is, because we read that glowing ancient poetry about, like, opalescent scales and singing waters. But when Eleanor and her knights arrive at that raging creek...
She's drowning people in full plate armor.
Yes. She literally plucks a gasping knight from the water and just tosses him onto the bank. It feels like, I don't know, visiting the headquarters of a supposedly benevolent tech company and discovering the CEO is just a ruthless shark.
That's a great way to put it. But the violence there, it's highly theatrical.
Theatrical.
Yeah, and that theatricality is a direct symptom of what happens centuries after Kai. The heroes find that memorial inscription, right? The one that says, Oleric tamed Tehom.
Oh, right.
The phrasing there is critical. Tamed implies this domestication of nature. But look at the mechanism of that taming.
The massive stone dam.
Exactly. They sealed her lair from the sea, essentially trapping her in an artificial lake. So they didn't really tame her. They severed her energetic ley lines.
Wow, okay.
By building that physical barrier, they basically created a magical tourniquet.
Okay, but I struggle with this a bit, though, because if she is practically a godlike, a leviathan capable of manipulating the entire regional water table, why does a wall of stone hold her?
It seems like a plot hole, doesn't it?
Yeah. Why doesn't she just blast the dam herself? It feels like this massive contradiction in her power scaling.
Well, it seems contradictory until you look at the properties of stagnant water in this specific lore.
Okay, break that down for me.
The dam doesn't just hold back water. It stops the kinetic energy of the river itself.
Oh, because her magic is tied to the movement.
Exactly. Tehom's physical power is intrinsically tied to momentum and flow. Shanchai's journals suggest that without that rhythmic connection to the tides in the sea, her physical strength actually atrophies.
So she's physically weakened by the lake.
Right. The earthworks bind her physically because she has been starved of the kinetic magic of the current for, like, centuries.
So she is physically trapped by her own stagnancy.
Exactly.
Okay, that actually makes so much sense of why she pivots so dramatically when she finally confronts Eleanor and the group.
It's a complete shift in tactics.
Yeah. It shifts instantly from this terrifying monster movie physical threat into a deeply unsettling psychological chess match. She swirls the water around them and literally asks, "Am I the dark power you seek?"
Right. And notice how cleverly she frames her demand there.
Yeah, she needs them to destroy the dam downstream to grant her freedom.
But she doesn't beg.
Yep.
And she doesn't threaten them with brute force either, because she knows her own physical limits now.
Right.
Instead, she weaponizes their own self-image.
Oh, she totally does.
She challenges their virtue. She's essentially stating she will aid them unless, and she phrases it exactly like this, unless they are less than the noble knights they pretend to be.
It's pure manipulation. But here is where I really push back on her supposed grandeur. Because she does this telepathic intrusion on Peter, right?
This is mind reading.
Yeah, she senses his internal doubts and then whispers this incredibly venomous philosophy into his mind. She tells him, "What we hide may truly reflect our deepest, purest selves. Embracing these impulses, shadows merge with light."
It's a very dark worldview.
But, I mean, why is an ancient Leviathan playing armchair psychologist with a human knight? It sounds less like a scary dragon and more like a dark therapist trying to convince Peter that his toxic traits are actually his superpowers.
That's hilarious, but it's accurate. She targets Peter's psychology because psychology is the only arena where she still have absolute leverage.
Oh, 'cause she can't use physical force.
Right. Shonchai's doctrine of New Sophia, which is heavily referenced in the margins of these texts, by the way, explains this perfectly.
Remind us what New Sophia posits again?
Basically, it posits that a self is continuously woven by its actions and its environment.
Okay.
Tihome cannot move water, so she moves minds. She's literally laughing at the heroes, flawlessly playing the role of the perpetual victim.
Yeah, she really plays that card hard.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because if she can maneuver Eleanor into championing her cause and Peter into doubting his own righteousness, she proves something fundamental.
Which is?
That human morality is easily dismantled by a good sob story and the promise of a shortcut.
So she is essentially running a cynical experiment on them.
Precisely.
Like, if she can make these supposed heroes do her bidding just by making them feel guilty or insecure, then human virtue is just a tool to be exploited. It's fake.
Yeah. And she even states explicitly during the encounter, "I've faced my darkness. My thoughts are clear as this water."
Oh, wow.
But the dramatic irony there is palpable. Think about it. The water in a reservoir is inherently murky.
Right, it's stagnant.
Exactly. It's filled with unseen currents dragging dead sediment around. Her claimed clarity is a complete illusion born entirely of her isolation.
That is so true. And, to truly grasp the mechanics of how unnatural that isolation is, we have to look at the foil the lore provides.
Fuzonglong.
Yes, Fuzonglong, the golden-scaled guardian of Mount Aket. It is such a stark contrast. I mean, Teham is at the bottom of a stagnant lake hoarding resentment, while Fuzonglong is in an elevated sanctuary hoarding lessons.
The encounter with the merchant Thomas of Stonegate illustrates Fuzonglong's role perfectly in the lore.
Oh, totally. Thomas climbs the mountain expecting physical wealth, right?
Yeah, and Fuzonglong just strips that greed away. He offers these harsh but vital truths about the fleeting nature of beauty and time. Fuzonglong is actively engaged in the moral and spiritual education of the realm.
And the mechanism behind Fuzonglong's engagement is the environment itself, which is so cool.
Right.
He receives messages on the gentle, whispering wind. The wind carries secrets from the forest, like it tells him about Peter's plight and about the goblin machinations.
He's plugged in.
Exactly. Fuzonglong is like a massive, ancient tree plugged into a continent-wide mycelial network. He feels the tremor of every single leaf. But Tehom, on the other hand, is a tree that was violently dug up and planted in a concrete pot.
That mycelial network analogy is structurally so accurate to the magic system here.
Really?
Yeah, because information is magic in this realm. That gentle wind isn't just carrying news, it is literally carrying the energetic resonance of the world.
Oh, I see.
Fuzonglong remains spiritually healthy because he is part of that energetic flow. He processes the grief, the joy, the shifting balances of the whole continent.
Whereas Tehom has been totally denied that resonance.
Exactly. She hears nothing but the echo of her own lamentations bouncing off the stone of the dam.
Okay, there is a remarkably fleeting moment during the standoff with Tehom that I completely missed on my first read, but it ties directly into this network.
The moment with the wind.
Yes. The text notes that she sighs, sending ripples across the water, and then a gentle wind arrives, making the leaves tremble in the ancient trees.
Yeah.
And for just a fraction of a second, the text says the dragon, once more sensing hesitation, lowered her head.
It is honestly the most tragic sentence in the entire chapter.
It really is.
Because that gentle wind is the exact same energetic carrier that keeps Fu Zhanglong connected to the world's truth.
Right.
When it brushes past Taehom, she hesitates. The physical sensation of the realm's broader magic touches her, and for a heartbeat, she remembers what it feels like to be part of the natural flow.
She remembers the era before the dam.
Exactly.
But then she shakes it off. She violently rejects that connection and just immediately returns to the bitter, manipulative persona.
Yeah, she shuts it down.
But why? I mean, if she remembers the truth of the world, why choose the darkness?
Because accepting that connection means accepting the reality of her grief. The psychological weight of 500 years of isolation is just too heavy to process in a single moment. According to the mechanics of New Sophia we talked about earlier,
The environment weaving the self.
right, she has woven her entire identity around being betrayed. To let go of that resentment would mean unraveling the only self she has known for centuries.
Wow.
The isolation has completely calcified into her core personality.
Which connects to the most terrifying recurring theme in this lore, I think.
The nature of the dark power.
Yes. Isolation doesn't just make creatures sad, it actively breeds the dark power. We see the exact same mechanism with the corrupted witch fae in the woods, and we see it with the mysterious dark watchers.
It's a consistent pattern.
Every single malevolent force the heroes encounter thrives on severed connections. Damming up the flow of water or wind or human empathy, it doesn't just hold back nature, it is the literal manufacturing process for monsters.
You hit the nail on the head. The text continually reinforced that evil in this universe is not some external invading force. It is the byproduct of stagnation.
It's the rot from within.
Exactly. Taehom's psychological toxicity is turning her into the exact kind of manipulative, dark entity the heroes are supposedly trying to defeat. And she justifies her venom because she genuinely believes her victimhood grants her immunity from moral judgment.
That is so dangerous. And knowing all of this, like the mechanics of her magic, her psychological decay, the fact that she views human morality as a literal joke, it makes the hero's final interaction with her incredibly tense.
It's incredibly nerve-wracking.
Because they're physically stuck. They cannot cross the raging waters to continue their campaign against the orcs, so they make this desperate, arguably foolish choice to trust her, or at least to use her.
And the physical act of crossing the reservoir there is fraught with metaphorical weight.
Oh, yeah. They climb onto her iridescent obsidian blue back, and she basically becomes a living bridge.
Marrying them across the impassable waters, right?
But they are riding on the back of a creature who is just inside their minds, methodically attempting to dismantle their ethical foundations.
It's a huge gamble.
Huge. And as they depart on the far shore, she drops her facade slightly. Her voice drips with this predatory amusement, and she says, "May your journey prove truly triumphant."
Such a chilling line.
The lore describes those words hanging in the air like a sword of Damocles. It's not a blessing at all. It's a curse wrapped in polite vocabulary.
It is a calculated psychological barb. She is essentially betting against them.
Yeah.
She's betting that their journey will expose their hypocrisy, that their triumph will require atrocities that prove her cynical view of humanity is correct.
And the absolute craziest part of this entire deep dive is that we still don't know her ultimate fate.
No, we don't.
The sources just leave it completely unresolved. The dam is still standing as Eleanor and the company march off to fight the orcs. They have a war to win, a kingdom to save.
Priorities, right.
Right. So what happens next? What are the geopolitical implications here? Because if they actually survive the war and come back to break the dam, they are unleashing a bitter, highly manipulative water god who has spent 5 centuries marinating in her own toxicity.
The geopolitical fallout of either choice is catastrophic, honestly.
Walk us through it.
Well, let's examine the scenario where they fulfill their promise and destroy the dam. Yes, nature reclaims the ruins, and the physical ecosystem might undergo a violent but necessary reset.
Okay, that sounds positive.
But her psychological venom remains.
Yeah.
An unleashed Tenham, armed with her deep contempt for humanity, might not return to singing to the waters.
Oh, right.
It might align her phenomenal power with the sinister forces of Merkendun, or perhaps the rebellious orcs themselves, recognizing them as fellow outcasts of human expansion.
So she essentially becomes a weapon of mass destruction with a massive grudge.
Exactly. But let's look at the alternative. What if Eleanor and the Knights break their promise?
What if they decide the risk is just too great and they leave her trapped behind the stone?
Then they validate every single venomous whisper she planted in their minds.
Oh, wow.
They prove that human promises are worthless, and that human virtue is merely a facade maintained only when it is convenient.
That's a lose-lose situation.
It really is. Leaving her trapped permanently solidifies her alignment with the dark power. She becomes the undisputed embodiment of the unresolved consequences of the past. You just cannot build a wall over a foundational systemic problem and expect the pressure to magically dissipate.
Taham is really a masterclass in how victims of circumstance can evolve into profound systemic threats when they are denied their natural flow.
Absolutely.
And, it forces a really uncomfortable reflection on how we operate in our own lives. Think about the architecture of your own mind for a second.
That's a deep thought.
Well, where are you building emotional or mental dams to hold back chaotic forces or painful memories? Are those trapped emotions just sitting there stagnating in the dark?
Usually they are.
Right. And are they slowly turning into toxic, manipulative impulses that you justify simply because you feel like a victim? Taham's tragedy is basically a mirror for human repression.
The mechanics of repression in the lore and in reality are identical. The pressure always finds an outlet. But I actually want to introduce a broader implication here about the very nature of the threat the heroes are facing.
Okay, lay it on us.
Throughout the lore, the heroes are desperately hunting for the source of the dark power.
Yeah, the big bad.
Exactly. They're looking for a singular villain, a dark lord orchestrating the decay of the realm. But look at the evidence we have gathered today.
The witch fae isolated in the woods. The dark watchers severing connections. Taham trapped behind the dam.
Precisely. The dark magic of this realm is consistently fueled by severed connections and stagnation.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
What if the true dark power Eleanor is hunting isn't a villain at all?
Wait.
What if the ultimate apocalyptic threat to this continent is actually the cumulative aggregate byproduct of all the physical and emotional dams humanity has built over the centuries?
Oh, man.
Every broken promise, every diverted river, every isolated creature slowly generating a localized dark energy.
Oh, that completely changes the reading of the entire text. They aren't fighting an army. They are fighting the aggregate ecological and spiritual pollution of their own ancestors' choices.
Exactly.
So Taham isn't just a monster they have to deal with. She is a battery powering the very darkness they are trying to defeat.
And if the darkness is systemic, it cannot be defeated with a sword. It can only be dismantled by restoring the flow of the entire continent. Which brings us back to the terrible burden placed on Eleanor and Peter.
Can they dismantle a system they actively benefit from?
That's the million-dollar question.
That is a staggering implication to mull over. I mean, we started out looking at a murky myth about a water serpent, and we've uncovered the blueprint for how isolation and broken promises literally manufacture the darkness that consumes a world.
It's all connected.
It really makes you realize that tearing down the physical dam might just be the easiest part of their journey. Well, thank you for taking this deep dive with us today. We've decoded the mechanics of the magic, the tragedy of the isolation, and the terrifying truth about the dark power.
It's been a great discussion.
It really has. Until next time, keep questioning the narrative, and whatever you do, don't let the water stagnate.